I'm currently the president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is an organization that looks at the whole bandwidth of consciousness and where the frontiers of change are and where worldview is collapsing and where it's reforming. And I came to that place from my own journey, which was through war and human rights abuse and 10 years as the director of Amnesty International's office in Washington. The Institute was founded by Edgar Mitchell, who was the sixth man to walk on the moon, and on his way back to Earth and seeing Earth and feeling the spin of the capsule, that he began to enter a deep state of connectivity where he said he felt the molecules of his own body beginning to resonate with everything around him, so that he could feel no lines of separation. And so he really, as an MIT-trained scientist himself, wanted to look at, then back with his feet firmly on planet Earth, the connection between those different modalities of knowing, those different ways of knowing. That synthesis, I think, has driven the organization and has placed us at this point where that's a big conversation here on planet Earth. How do we bring together these subjective, deeply informed subjectivity? We can even talk about subjectivity in that way now. Deeply informed subjectivity with deeply informed rationality and so-called objectivity. How do you break into that conversation? It looked at, maybe the way is through anomalies. What are the anomalous areas where there are just little tears in the fabric of our mapping? And so one was, this whole area when people are dying with devastating diseases, why is it some of them just stop dying and their disease arrests itself and they go into total remission? What's that? And so we collected the research. We still have, an update, the world's largest bibliography on the remission of disease, because that in itself has informed people. It really sort of brought in that whole territory of psycho-neuroimmunology that became popularly, the mind-body connection, mind-body health. Once you begin to look at health and healing and the transformation, how can you look at a healthy person in a sick society? You begin to see that the relationships, the web of connections that are integral, that affect both the personal and the collective. And I think we're at a very vivid moment in seeing a lot of spiritual awakening, a lot of transformational ideas, which we have also looked at and studied in many ways. And yet, we haven't reached the lock-on of that awareness finding its modality into systemic transformation. Yeah, we're at a point where it's no longer local collapse, and we know that. Now that's somehow at a global scale. And it still seems to be gathering in some ways, and it's gathering around of thinking that is overly rigid, materialistic, concretized, and that's good news. It's really good news. It just so happens that it will be, and it continues to be, extremely painful news. I'm one of those people who's had to spend much of their life thinking about that relationship between pain and suffering and massive violation, massive trauma in the human system and the human psyche, and yet what comes out of that, what comes through. Right at the end of the Holocaust and the Second World War, you have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, an attempt to say there's something in the nature of law that can lift us. And you had a whole series of movements then of the beginning of these commissions and reports and truth commissions. So you begin to see emerging something quite new that summarizes itself in truth, reconciliation, and forgiveness. I've come to the conscious movement part of it as a way of trying to synthesize my own life's journey through the places of hell and torture and wounding on the planet to the possibilities that we can, in fact, and will, in fact, triumph